Now we enter our dark phase, rust and fabrication. Ugh.
Hey!
Over a decade.
Hey, that's a yeehaw moment right there.
Welcome back to PQ Speed Shop. What we got going on here is we did try on the door and the fitment was well in the rear and in the front. The bottom still has about a 1/2 inch gap at the bottom, but I think we can fix that on the back end. In any case, I think it's time we start welding, providing that I don't run out of gas. But here's where we are now. Let me show you. First thing I'm going to do is take this piece back off. We have the sheet metal screws in there to mark the spot so we know when we weld it back in it'll be the same. I have to tap out a few of these spots for my rosette welds. Then we'll go ahead and weld this piece in and that'll be done. I may end up tweaking this rocker panel a little bit more, but that's ready to be welded in. Then we can kind of move on to the back here and start working on this back section, the wheelhouses and stuff. I've made some major decisions when it comes to what I'm going to do with this car. I had purchased the US Car Tools complete kit with the wheel tubs and the whole works. The reason why I'm not going to go with the wider wheel tubs is not because I don't want bigger tires. It's because I want to maintain the stock sway bar in the rear. And with the US Car Tools kit, you can't use that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now the other thing is, I have a few other US Car Tool pieces to weld on, one being the radiator support. The other is these fender supports. And then I also have frame support down there. With these, they have to be fitted. They don't automatically fit straight out of the box. You have to kind of tweak them a little bit. So we're going to work on that as well. Not quite sure. I'm still up in the air on how much of this I'm actually going to use and what I might just offer up at Carlisle next year. And in any case, what's what. There's also a subframe connector kit that comes with it. That definitely I will be using, but I'm probably just going to tack it on while the car sits on the jig and then wait until I put it on the rotisserie in order to finish the welds. Just nobody likes to weld upside down. It's a pain in the butt. The welds come out crappy. I just do a better job when it's straight on. The roof is another section that eventually we'll have to get to, but I'm kind of making my way here, get this tied up, get this corner piece tied up, kind of do this, get this section tied up here with the new wheelhouse and the trunk drop off, fit the quarter panel. But in order to do that, I have to get this up in here. Crispy bacon. Crispy, crunchy, yummy bacon. That's what we want. Dang. Didn't see that coming. All right, let's see what we got here. Move this clamp over. See if we can go this way. There we go. Nice and tight. That's the way we like it, nice and tight. check the weld afterward to make sure I got the whole hole filled, because you don't want to leave any of that trash behind. All right, let's play with this one here. Move this one over. All right, here we go. Uh-oh. There we go. I'm going to end up having to grind these before I put that piece back in, just so everything lays flat. And you don't want to leave the weld like this. I mean, it doesn't matter too much because it's behind, but we want to kind of make sure that it's nice and flush. There's a piece back here on this piece that needs to lay flat. I'm going to get behind there with the hammer and kind of tap it down. Just put a little tack in there. But let's move on to this side over here and get this done. All right. Moving the camera again. All right. Sorry, gents, I'm going to have to move you a little bit. Ladies, move you out of the way so I can get my fat head in here. All right. Checking over here to make sure this is flush. Let's do this. All right. Why, yes, Mr. Flintstone. I'll get that bowling ball for you right now. Ah, got me. It got me. Move the clamp again. Looks pretty good. Use my hammer just to kind of push on the back. Make sure we're flush. This one seems okay. This one, not so much. All right. See how this looks up under here. Nope, that is not tight. Alrighty. Let's see, are we tight now? Not really. Alright, let's try it this way. If you don't have the two pieces of metal tight together, you're going to end up all kinds of gaps and possible water leaks and everything else. So we really want to try to get that flattened down. Let's see what we got here. if you have to bang that down a little bit to make it flat and put like even a slight little ding in there, it's better than it not touching. Yep, that looks good. And we don't even have the clamp on there at this point, but that looks good. All right, see how we look down here? Might have to get me a flashlight. Get me a light. So one thing about welding, kind of like painting, it doesn't seem like you can ever have too much light on the subject. More light the better. At my age, that's even more so. My eyesight ain't what it used to be. All right, let's put the clamp back on there. All right. When I weld these rosette welds, I tend to try to go to the outside of the hole first and kind of move my way to the inside and then fill up the hole, kind of bring it out to the edge, try to fill it up evenly. And sometimes we get a little extra on there, but it grinds off pretty quick. All right, I think we're down to the final hole down here on this piece. Let's see where I can get a good grip in here. Tighten this down a little bit more. Let's see here what we got. Man, I'm going up and under for this one. Can't even see it. Let's try this up here. Damn it. All right. More than one way to skin a cat. I tell you how much I hate welding upside down. I despise it. I despise it. We've got good penetration on the back side. That's what we want. Got a couple up here on the top. Those are going to take a clamp, some banging. All right. All right, Come on now. Go. Alright, so we went ahead and ground these down. I just cleaned off some wax remover. Note to self, never ever touch anything moving without a pair of gloves on. That's a good way to hamper a project. That sucker is sore now. I decided it was a great idea to try to check a moving part with my bare fingers, and yeah, that's gonna hurt for a while. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and put some primer on here on the spots, the bare spots, and put the other piece in there and get ready to weld that. Let's go. PQ here, welcome back. So I've been working on a bunch of stuff since the last time I was on. So let me go ahead and show you what I've accomplished so far. So on this side, we went ahead and started installing, well, first we installed the inside pieces here. Then we installed the inner fender braces, US car tool radiator support. And once again, US car tool supports here on the inner fender. If you remember, I just got done taking off some of this additional stuff, so now I've taken this down somewhat with the wire wheel, try to get down to what's really nasty in here. And we're going to end up having to cut out a couple of pieces here, but I want to show you something else. I don't know if this part has a name, but it's where the window cat whiskers attached to, and what the top of the fender or the quarter panel attaches to. between the door here and the inner part of the structure here. And no one repops this piece, and you're kind of either stuck to reuse what you have, or in our case, we're going to end up having to try to remake this. And I honestly, it's going to be a challenge, but we're going to make an attempt, because like I said, unless you find a parts card and you steal it off of another car, this piece does not get repopped. And I've heard some people say they just put a straight piece of steel between there, but I would prefer to try to get it back as close to the original as possible. It welds to the inside here and comes out to here. So that's kind of sort of how I like it goes. And then the quarter panel sits on top of it, and those window whiskers clip into this. So we're going to have to try to redo this. Meantime, I've also taken a tape, kind of a just one piece. We're going to do this in several pieces, and I've kind of made a tape template of this section right here. So we're going to try to do this in a piece at a time. Try to replace this. This is a Challenger. They do make these inner structures for a Barracuda, and although they're close, I might be able to use some parts of it to fit in. They're not identical, and we're going to do our best to try to use what we can. If you see, this piece here at the top is a lot narrower than the Challenger piece, so we're going to try to cut and piece each one in. Issue I'm having right now is not a work issue as much as it is a shop issue. I have an older, I want to say it's like a 72 Champion compressor, and I just had it serviced a couple months ago, and the thing works great. Matter of fact, the guy said this thing is a workhorse. So it came with the shop when I bought the house, and it is 3-phase. Well, in order to convert 3-phase, you got to use a rotary converter to convert it. Well, this thing, I just had it replaced 10 years ago, and I got a puff of smoke and a fuse blew the other day, so I got an electrician coming out, and I'm not looking forward to that expense. I'm probably going to have to buy another one, but we will see when he gets here. These electric motors tend to, when they go and they smoke, they're gone. Alright, so cleaned up some of the welds around the inside here. I haven't finished yet, and we'll end up having to touch it up again before I go ahead and put some primer on there. I went ahead and added the serial number into the front radiator support on the new front radiator support. The old one, if you remember, was all twisted and bent up. Cleaned up these welds here where I split it and put it back together. So I mean, I'm happy so far with the progress. I had a few family things, a funeral, vacation, you know, the regular family stuff that goes on that we all have to deal with. So that's why it's been a little while since I've been on here. But I'm going to do my best with hand tools to try to figure out what I can do here. Going back to old school, you know, I might have to cut out the plasma, bring out the plasma cutter. But what I did was I went ahead and measured the thickness on this piece, and I got myself a piece of thicker stock to recreate this. And I'm going to have to try to recreate this thing piece by piece. I imagine I'm going to start from the center, bending out, and you know, because I got to add all these bends in there. I've been thinking about how I'm exactly going to do this. I can trace it out, but then I have to add the bends in here, and I want to make sure I get the length right on this piece. And unfortunately, it's the same case on both sides, are pretty rough. This is the driver's side, and it's in pretty rough shape as well. If I can just add one piece to it, maybe just do a portion of it, weld it in, instead of trying to do the whole thing, just do part of it and then just weld it in, because you can see there's some holes right there, right through it. So this whole back section, and then of course this section. So I'm not sure. I guess I could do it in several parts, weld it together. I can do it that way, or I can try to make one whole complete piece. And I think that might be a little tough. This center section here seems to be okay. So I could make back section welded in, front section welded in. I don't know, but here's that first piece of the roof structure that I've traced out of my tape template, and we just simply have to cut this out. And I imagine, since I don't have air, I'm going to end up having to cut this out by hand, which is not fun unless I break open the plasma cutter, which is always a possibility. So let's get to work. Alright, so what I did was I took a tape template off of the old piece. What do I do with that? Okay, there it is. Made a tape template, and then flattened it out on a nice thin piece of cardboard, Mr. Captain Crunch. And we're going to cut this out. The reason I did this is because these are mirrored parts for left or right, driver's side, passenger side. So what I should be able to do is, I got this one marked right hand, so I should be able to cut this out and mark these holes where the holes are, and I should have a template for left or right. And who knows, I might be able to make a few of these and help somebody else out. But I've marked on here where the bends are across the piece, where the holes are on the piece, and now we're going to cut it out with a pair of scissors, and then we'll transfer that over to a piece of metal and cut that out, and hopefully it'll work. So off we go. All right, so let's see what we got. So right now I've started cutting out these pieces out of sheet metal. I kind of marked and punched where the holes are going to be. This is my cardboard template that I made, and we'll go ahead and get that down. In the meantime, I kind of shift gears, because sometimes when you're working on a project, you want to switch around to get bored with something, or you want to think about something a little bit longer. So I moved over here to the other side. I went ahead and addressed some of the holes on the bottom. I got to weld those. I went ahead and cut out the old wheelhouse out of the on the passenger side, and I have the new one in here. This is a Dynacorn one piece. It's a one piece, and this is also a Dynacorn drop off. And everything's just either sheet metal screwed or just clamped in there temporarily. This isn't going to stay there. I'm going to move things around, but I want to draw attention. Hold on one second. Seems to sound better, especially with this. Get the heater going now. All right, so I want to take and address this area here. This is the inner structure of the roof, and it's in really, really bad shape. It's not just rotted on this outer piece. You can see there's a rat's nest in there. I pulled a little bit out. It's old carpet and everything else, so they picked stuff up along the way and stuffed it inside there, and the poop and the pee and the rat droppings and pee-pee and piss and urine and all that nasty stuff, well, it happens to like to rust metal really bad. So if that happens to your project, you're going to find a lot of that rot there. But it's rotting all on the inside here. So the thing about the way I want to attack this is I don't want to lose the main pieces here. They make the pieces for a Barracuda, but not for a Challenger. I mean, There might be some pieces. I went ahead and bought them, and I might be able to use some pieces off of there, but I'm not sure. I might just try to cut out my own. So basically what I'm going to have to do, I want to keep this distance and shape, so I'm going to cut along this line right here, and you see how this that'll give me an idea of where the shape goes, and I'll cut that up. Now if you see where the pitting is, it goes into the next piece that lays on top, but over here seems to be good, and we don't want to lose these screw holes here, so we want to make sure we get those, or at least get an idea of where they're at. So what I'm probably going to do is cut it off to this edge here, and you can see where this piece ends underneath. So I'm going to end up having to cut back and around, down, and down here. Now we get down to where that piece is that I'm making over there that goes from here to the inner door jamb. We have a good spot of where that's at. It goes right along this indention here, so we don't want to lose that indention. I'll probably end up just welding a little small piece to go in there once I get the outer part, but I've got to weld from this inner structure all the way down in here, and once I cut this piece out, I'm going to have to repair what's underneath because that's also rotted. So we'll go ahead and repair that. And actually, this isn't as bad as it was on the other side. The other side was actually a little worse than this on this portion, where this is bad right here. So what I'm going to end up doing is cutting this out. I'll probably cut along this so I can see where the edge is. Then there's also a little indent right here. I don't know if you can see that. There's a little indent right there. So you want to make sure that we keep this. So I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of paper on there. I'm going to kind of trace what's here. And essentially when you start thinking about how you're going to weld in pieces, you got to think about geometric shapes like Tetris, you know. So we've got a piece that kind of goes like this, and then we got this piece like that. I don't know what the hell you call that. There's a name for that shape, but I'm not quite sure what it is off the top of my head. Then we got a piece up here, so we're gonna have to get that. And of course this piece down here. So what I'll end up doing is it'll be like 3 pieces. 1, 2, 3. And then we'll weld those together, and that'll make this piece into one piece. And then it'll also give me a chance to repair what's underneath once I cut this top piece off. But we don't want to lose this little indent right here. We're not sure what that's for, but it's about the same size as my thumb on the indent. So I'm gonna make sure we put back what we got in the new piece. So chances are I'll probably cut like that. Like I said, I don't have no problems putting in a small piece, but I want to make sure the most important part is that we keep the shape of what we need here, because the roof attaches, the roof panel and the quarter panel attach in kind of this area right here. So this section right here and this section right here are raised just so slightly. So that's what we're going to work on now, and I'll go ahead and get back to you after I make a template. I went ahead and just like with the engine, got the engine done, sent that out to a guy, Mike Thomas over here in Waldorf, to do it, T&G. Older guy, he's been doing these Mopar engines forever, and I sent the upholstery out. And we'll talk about the first guy I sent it to a recommended a friend of a friend, and he really screwed up the seat covers from what is that place called? They make the factory seat covers, and took it over to this guy because he was recommended. And I asked him to paint the frames, and frames didn't get painted. He tore a corner. I'm not going to mention any names, but anyways, I ended up finding another guy, and he's Joe's Superior Upholstery in Waldorf. awesome work. I had him do the Challenger seats, I had him do a motorcycle seat for me, and this is all within the last, I don't know, 3 weeks. I mean, he get it in there and gets it out. So I'm gonna let him do the headliner, and I'm gonna let him do the carpet when it comes time. But it really counts when you find decent people that do decent work. By all means, patronize them, send them to your friends if they're good. But don't send somebody just because you think they're cheap. You know, maybe some people want that, but some of us want somebody that's going to do good work. I don't mind paying a little extra to have decent work done because it's saving me time. I could have done the seats probably. I don't know how good they would have been, but I've never done it before. But I mean, there's step by step. It's like anything else. You get into it, you do it, you learn from your mistakes. You know, I did transmission, never done transmission before. Did that. A lot of this stuff, never gone this deep before into a car. I'm doing it. You know, it's getting done, and you do it too. But in any case, Joe's Superior Upholstery in Waldorf, Maryland. Send the man some business. Does great work, and for a really reasonable price for the kind of work he's doing. It's good. Tell him I sent you. You know, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to send no slouches, and I'm not going to cut anybody down online, but I won't be going back to the previous guy. And I won't recommend him, but I also won't talk shit about him either. It's just who I am. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and get busy on this. Let's see, there's a little small piece I can take out here, grind down a few things, take this roof part off, knock this off, start planning my next attack for doing these patches in here. So let's go. Tack welded on the subframe connector from US Car Tools because I'm going to go ahead, I don't like welding upside down, so I'm going to go ahead and wait until I get it on the rotisserie. I had to weld up this inner structure, and I'll show pictures of that, and get all that done, which was a real bear. Put this new piece in up here, still got to grind down the welds, but I got all this stuff welded in. And I just fit the quarter panel in there. So now it's time to start tightening up the rear end of this car, and hopefully finish up the metal work so I can get on the rotisserie. I still have to fit the roof panel. One of the major parts about this is, if you remember, I'm going to have to redo this section here, which I hate to do, but the door did not, it was a little bit long. It went over here, so I know this distance is wrong. Got the other side right, so at least I have a measurement I can go by in order to put it on this side. I had some welding I had to do on the inside structure over here, and I have some more to do on this side and also this section, but I'm not going to bother welding that in until after I get this part fixed. I went ahead and put my braces in on both sides, the front and here, so that roof section will stay put while I go ahead and pull this section out. I'm going to recheck my measurements in my book, the cross measurements. I'm going to go ahead and also take some additional measurements across this way. This appears to be correct, and the measurements came out correct when I installed it. The issue is this back inner cowl piece is probably 1/4 to 1/2 inch cattywampus, kind of like this. So if you remember, I used a laser light on the other side. I'm going to do the same thing here. Use the laser light to try to get it to where it needs to be, but I'm also going to double check the measurements on this side versus the other side to get them together. But it sucks to have to pull this apart, but you know what? Let's go ahead and get it done while we have the car here. And we have to. We got to get the door to fit. Once that's done, I can go ahead and finish welding in this cowl piece right here. I just have the spot weld pieces on there, but I don't have it together. Hopefully I don't have to tear into the rocker panel or anything. I don't think so. That seems to be correct. The measurements this way. It's just this front piece that's a little cattywampus. You couldn't really mess up this back section because of the inner structure, but that front was a bear. And I remember I tweaked this a little bit on this piece because it didn't fit right. And when I did that, I really messed this up. So I'm going to feel much better replacing that. I did write some of my measurements on here to make sure that I got some close, but I'm going to go ahead and take a few more measurements. So you can see I've got a brand new A-pillar. And, you know, I know everybody loves their AMD, and that's great, but this was rusted on the inside and the out of the A-pillar, and the only company that makes a whole A-pillar is Goodmark. So this is a Goodmark part. And so be it. I've had good luck with them. They're no different, in my opinion. You know, they say something about the metal thickness, but I can tell you right now, the metal thickness on that it's good. It's good gauge. To me, they seem to be thicker than the AMD, but that's just me. I've got everything on this side of the quarter panel is just clamped in or sheet metal screwed in. I have the drop off panel just laid in there, but it's not in completely. And I'll have to do this other side. This other side needs a little tweaking, just like the other one did. And this is like with most stuff. You can see this is a little high right here, just like it was on the other side. And it's a little twisted down here, but I think the reason why is this piece is not bent correctly. These are one piece Dynacorn inner wheel wells. It just saves me the hassle of welding them together, and I had such a hard time, if you remember from the other video, trying to fit those together. So I just don't want to mess with it anymore. The one major piece that I have to deal with is the tail panel. This tail panel was rotted completely all the way across the bottom. And I tried to weld a piece of sheet metal on here, and I'll show you. It's embarrassing. Like I said, I'm not a professional. I'm learning as I go along, just like all of you do. So I welded this piece of metal on there, and it looks okay, but there's a lot of rough welding. So I'm going to decide whether or not I'm just going to continue to try to grind this out and make something out of it, because this will be covered in the back by the bumper area. And but the bend in the metal, I've got to hit that with a hammer and dolly, get it straightened out. I did the top part, I got to do the bottom. And it's, you know, I really would like to put this thing through a sandblast, so I have to get my local sandblasting guy to see if he can do me a favor after I get this thing somewhat decent. They don't repop this part for a 72 through 74 Challenger. I heard last night on a friend of mine I was talking to, said they're planning on it, but it hasn't done yet. And honestly, I can't wait around to see if they might do it. This has got a lot of pitting in it. I'm not sure how I'm going to address that yet. You know, the back side is so. You know, it's not too terribly bad, but you can see my booger welds on there. And that was with the old welder. I got a new Miller welder, which is much, much nicer. Welds so much nicer than the other one. No offense to the other welder, but it's just not the same quality as quality. And so yeah, I've got to dress this piece on here. I'm going to try to make this look halfway decent. And that'll be the first piece I'll end up having to put on the back here and fit that once I figure out what's going on with the quarters. So today's going to be kind of taking measurements, messing with a few things, and see if I can't get a little bit better. I'm going to hold off tearing that apart until I dress the quarter on the other side. I got one more subframe connector on this side to install, Once again, just like the other side, you got to trim it down. And once you trim it down, I'm just going to tack weld it in until I get it on the rotisserie, flip it upside down. My sheet metal for the Challenger is we've got some gaps up here now. It's kind of nice. That's the rear end, but this was all filled with boxes before. So got the roof section, and then I have what I have up there. I got the trunk lid, and what is this piece right here? Oh, I don't even know what this piece is. Let's get up here and see. Oh, I know what this is. I was going to put the wider wheel tubs and mini tubs in. So if all you go into Carlisle, I'm going to have a ton of parts, including all of the US Car Tool mini tub stuff. This is the dashboard. I'm going to get that mounted and start working on that. You know, I get a little sick of metal work. I'll switch on and do something else. I've got the steering column. I still got to go through that and rebuild that and repaint it and make that all nice. There's the rear valance. I've got a couple of rear valances here. But yeah, these are, I'm getting down to the last of the nitty gritty. The last of the sheet metal. Man, it'll feel so nice to finally get that done and move on to the actual making it look pretty. I've still got a bunch of my dad's stuff here I got to get rid of. I got some motorcycles here. A couple of them are going to be for sale. Got to get rid of those so I have some more room in here. Don't have a shed yet, so lawn equipment's in here. It's one of my big pet peeves. I hate lawn equipment in the garage. But there's the two doors, so we'll be able to fit those with the quarters, and then be able to set everything. Because if you remember, I did the front end, put the fenders and the hood and everything on. Here's a funny story for you. So you remember the doors, I had one AMD and one Dynacorn door skin, and the Dynacorn comes with that inner brace already in it. And on the AMD one, you have to take it off the old one and put it on the AMD. So this wasn't available, but I had it on order, and I asked the guy where I ordered it from, the Dynacorn dealer. I said, look, wasn't I supposed to get another door skin? And he said, nope, you got everything you're supposed to get. So I just figured that they canceled my order. Well, this showed up yesterday, or Friday. This showed up Friday. And now I'm going to have this available at Carlisle as well. I'm going to have a whole trailer full of stuff at Carlisle. And, you know, so if you see me, come by, say hi. I'm going to have a bunch of e-body parts for sale. Frame rails, you name it. A bunch of parts, because I ended up buying stuff twice a lot of times. And, you know, my loss, your gain. And I'll recoup a little bit of my money, and y'all end up with some cheaper parts, don't have to pay shipping. How about that? So this is where we're sitting at. I want to get a video out. I know it's been a while. I had a bunch of stuff going on. One of my high school friends that I grew up in his garage doing cars. He had a 69 Mach 1 that he worked on throughout his entire life. He was taken by lung cancer. 4 years he fought it. Taken by lung cancer back in October. And we'll miss him. And to you, Teddy, I went ahead and when I was at the funeral, they had some pictures out on the table. I took a picture, kind of remember Teddy the way he was. And now it's hanging in the shop. So I'll keep him here with me in this shop. Learned a lot from him and his dad, Teddy Sr. If there wasn't something we couldn't accomplish in that garage, and if we couldn't figure it out, his dad was within earshot to tell us how to do it correctly. And you know, my kids often ask me, how'd you learn how to do all this stuff? Well, it's because we grew up poor, we didn't have anything, and If we wanted stuff fixed, we had to do it ourselves. And a lot of times that's exactly what we did. So don't think you're alone. No, this is the way it all is. And as long as you're out there, get out there on your project and work on it. I said maybe I haven't gotten the videos and I don't keep them out as frequent as I'd like to, but it doesn't mean that I'm not doing stuff and I'm not taping, because I am taping. Nobody wants to see me welding little patches and pieces to the inner structure, and that's why I said I was entering my dark period, kind of like artist, your dark period. So that's my dark period. All that little patchwork and inner structure. There wasn't an inch of this car that I haven't massaged or touched or had to replace. And we're finally getting to the point where I can see light at the end of the tunnel. I'm hoping it's not a train coming the other way. There's light at the end of the tunnel to get to a point where I'll have all the sheet metal done. Then we can start working on, epoxy priming, putting a gap in the doors and the trunk and everything. Get it on the rotisserie, flip it upside down. Once we have it solid, get the roof on. The roof is really the last piece. Once you see the video with the roof on, or me putting the roof on, then the sheet metal's just about done. So that's the last section. So right now, we're gonna focus on the back end of the car. The bitch to get this thing switched around in this garage, taking all this crap out, recovering it back up so it doesn't get filled with metal dust, and then getting back there. Probably need to sell some of these motorcycles. We just got way too many, man. And we can't ride all of them all the time. So we got to move some of this stuff. I've got parts for the next project car over there. Eventually I'm going to get those moved up top or up in that section over there once that's kind of emptied out. But yeah, it's nice when I get these done. Like this is the quarter panel box. It's empty right now with some bubble wrap in there. But it'll be nice once I start fitting this for good. I can take that out of my garage. Oh yeah, had an incident the other day. So I was touching up some welds inside the engine compartment. And underneath the car, I had a box with this the torque boxes, and the US Car Tools torque boxes in it, and it had some of that crinkly brown paper in there. So I had my welding shield on, and I started smelling something, so I looked up, and the whole box was on fire. So I picked up the box, and first I tried to put it out. That didn't work. I took it outside, still wouldn't go out. Ended up stomping on it, dumping it out, taking the stuff, putting it in the fire pit. Still wouldn't go out. And then I sat there for about 5 minutes with the water hose. Thank God I hadn't shut it off yet. With the water hose and watered it down. Now I do have fire extinguishers throughout the shop in here, and I suggest you have at least one, but mine are kind of old, so I needed to get a new one. So I went ahead and bought a new, I still have to hang it up. I went ahead and bought a new one, and it's something, commercial grade, something you need to have on hand just in case. It's there's a lot of shit in this garage, and I had a friend of mine, Mike, he lost a couple classic cars, an entire garage full of tools and everything else from a fire. And that's one of my biggest fears. So I went out and invested in some fireproof cabinets. I try not to leave anything that's flammable out at all. I have a dehumidifier running here, which sometimes those people say those are kind of dangerous or whatever, but I do have I have cameras in here so I can look periodically at what's going on in here. And yeah, it's just one of those things that kind of wake up to reality, like, hey, fire extinguisher. So it was a little bit of a scare. It's kind of those woo moments, get moving. But anyways, that's where we're at. We got a bunch of stuff going. It's starting to look good. You know, and yeah. Yep. We're getting there. So with that, I'm going to step out of my dark phase, get on to some other work. I got to do a steering column and a dashboard. Exciting. So look forward to those videos coming up. But thank you again for stopping by PQ Speed Shop. I'm PQ, and until next time, peace. And please like, subscribe, share with your friends, hit the notification bell, and we'll see you next time.